Welcome to our live training session here. We're going to be taking a look at how to tune a Honda K-Series engine with individual throttle bodies using an AEM Infinity system. Let's jump into some details about our vehicle. We're going to find this Honda Civic Si has been swapped with a K24 engine and a 6-speed transmission. Now this K24 engine has been completely rebuilt. We have 12.5:1 compression pistons, aftermarket rods. We have upgraded valve train, OEM cams, a 50-degree VTC gear, as well as a Type S oil pump. Now on the induction side of the engine, we have Kinsler's 64mm individual throttle bodies. So we're going to be learning how to dial this in using an alpha N strategy. We're going to find on the exhaust side of things, we have a header back exhaust, and on the fuel system side of things, we have a 410cc RDX injectors, as well as an upgraded in-tank fuel pump. Now in addition to this, we have a fuel pressure sensor that we've wired into the Infinity. We have a flex fuel sensor, and we're wired into an AEM X Series wideband, so we have air fuel reference. We have a lot of things to set up and discuss in our base map creation, so let's jump in so we can check this out. Welcome to our live training session. We're going to be taking a look in this tutorial at how to create a base file, setting up our inputs and outputs for our vehicle. Now we've wired in a couple additional inputs such as fuel pressure and flex fuel, and we have an AEM wideband wired into the AEM net coming into our AEM Infinity. So we need to go and set up all of these details along with just checking our outputs, making sure that we have things configured properly in the AEM plug and play base K-Series file. I am running an AEM plug and play harness on this, so I have a factory engine harness plugged into all the factory sensors. Then between the Infinity and my factory connectors, I have that bridge or jumper harness from AEM. So everything here is going to be strictly plug and play. Now we have individual throttle bodies on here, so it's going to be changing things up with these ITBs. We need to go in and account for the lack of something like our idle control motor. So there's a lot of details that we need to cover here in our base map creation process. So again, this tutorial, we're going to be focusing on setting up our inputs and outputs in our base map. The next tutorial, we're going to focus on setting up our 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional tables so that it's suited for tuning in an alpha N style strategy with our individual throttle bodies here. That's really what sets apart working with normal plenum style manifolds. So we have a single throttle body plenum, pretty straightforward to tune. Individual throttle bodies, it changes things up, and we have had some examples in our training course library. The BMW M3, for example, that was ITBs and boost. A little bit more complicated situation. With the K-Series here, we just have ITBs and we're naturally aspirated. So things change a little bit, and that's why I wanted to go in and create this live training tutorial. So it's very specific for a naturally aspirated engine. Now what we're outlining in here and what we're going to talk about in terms of the alpha N ITB based tuning can be applied to any engine. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go in, apply it only to a K-Series engine. The calibration process, the tuning process is going to be the same across any engine with individual throttle bodies. All right, let's jump in here and take a look at what I have on my laptop screen. So we have the Infinity AEM Infinity Tuner software open here. We can see there's nothing actually loaded within the software here because we're in the offline mode. I'm not connected to the Infinity. I do not have the vehicle powered on. This might be the situation that you're in. You might be sitting at your kitchen table. You might be sitting in your living room just watching the tutorial. You want to create your base map, and you don't need to necessarily be connected to the car. So we're going to do this in the offline mode, and then we'll connect to the vehicle later on, and we'll actually go and import this session file that we're going to create here that'll broadcast and bring in all of the data that we're changing into our Infinity, allowing us to fire up our engine and to start it. So let's go and take a look at what we need to do here in our offline mode to begin our base map creation process. So the first thing we need to do is open up a base session file. Now we're running this plug and play application, so the plug and play harness from AEM, everything here is going to be suitable for their plug and play file for a K-Series. Now even if you're not running their plug and play file, you could still run the K-Series base map, but you're gonna have to change a lot of things. We're not gonna have to change as many inputs or outputs because this is gonna be following what AEM has wired in their base map. Well, let's go and take a look at this real quick and see what we need to do in order to get things started with our base map creation process. So the first thing we have to do here is just go up to File, and let's go to Open Save Session. We need to go into opening up a session file that's going to be suitable for our vehicle. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to jump into, go up one, and we're going to go here into another, go up one. We're going to go in here to Sessions. This is in our Infinity Tuner folder. We're going to go here into our Sessions folder, and then into the Base Sessions, and then into our V96.3. Here we can go through and jump into our Infinity 506 and Infinity 508 options. If we click in here, we go down our list, This is a lot of different tunes I have saved in specific vehicle folders or project folders. I'm gonna go and scroll past this. You'll find that this is what you'll have in your directory. So I'm looking for, in this case, Honda K20A3 V96.3. Now this is gonna be able to run a base K series engine that's found in a base RSX or an EP3. Now I have a built K24 engine that has a K20 head, completely different than this K20A3 engine. This is more like a K20A2 engine, although it's a K24, but the idea of how VTEC's controlled and how that's going to operate is more suitable for a normal K20A2 engine. So this base map, again, is going to get us started, get us going, but we definitely have to modify a lot in this base file. Now, one thing I want to point out here, if depending on what specific firmware you have loaded onto your Infinity, it's most likely going to be a 96.5. I've jumped in here to the V96.3 folder. If I jump in here to V96.5, we take a look down in our folder here. If I go to the Infinity 506 and 508, I can find that same file available right here. Now I am running the firmware of 96.5, so I want to make sure, depending on what firmware is loaded onto my box, that I have that suitable file, because there will be incompatibility between, let's just say, 96.3 file and a 96.5 firmware. The reason why I know what specific firmware is on my box is that I purchased it from AEM just recently, and that's the firmware that they're shipping the boxes with. Now, I would always recommend to get on the latest and newest firmware whenever possible. So if you are on 96.3 firmware, I would recommend to go ahead and update your firmware, and then you can go in and select a newer file based around that firmware. So it's very important that you're selecting the file based on the firmware you have loaded on your box. Again, I have a 96.5 firmware loaded, so I'm going to go ahead and selecting the same file, the same Honda K20A3 file. It's just V96.5. It's going to be compatible with the firmware I'm running. So this is the file that I'm actually going to go ahead and select right here, and I'm going to go ahead and...
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.